Hello and welcome back to the Son of the Morning Comics channel, and today is Spidey Sunday. This will be our first Spidey Sunday. We don't have anything new to review, so may as well revisit some of the old stuff. And what you're looking at in front of you right now is The Amazing Spider-Man number 38 by Stan Lee and Steve Ditko. Now, the reason why I chose this book for our first Spidey Sunday is because this is the last Amazing Spider-Man issue that Steve Ditko did before it switched over to John Romita doing the art, with Stan Lee still doing the writing. So I also found it interesting that, it's also an issue that doesn't really contain a major superhero, but it's still a good issue. As well as you have two of Spider-Man, or I guess Peter Parker's, main squeezes in this book, and neither of them are the girl that he's interested in. So I found that to be, well, I knew about that, but I think that that's something that a lot of people wouldn't necessarily know. So at any rate, we're not going to use the real book here to do the review. We're going to use this giant brick of an Omni to do the review, and it's going to be a little challenging because number 38's the last one in this one, so I'm going to have to hold the book the whole time, but that's okay. Okay, so we got us open here right to the end of the book. Like I said, this is the last issue of this Omni, and so just a guy named Joe. So Joe is Joe Smith. He is not the smartest guy in the world, as they let you know here at the beginning, but he is determined that he is going to be the champ, that he is going to be the man. So this promoter manager fella says, sure, we'll give you a shot. Of course, he, gets knocked out in the first minute of the first round. Then, unfortunately, tries his hand at professional wrestling and doesn't do so well there either. And so what he does, the manager likes Joe, so he's not willing to give up on him. So what he decides that he's going to do is he's going to take him. He found a role for him in an acting role where all he needs to do is be a monster and smash things. So he figures, why not? So he goes there, he's in this green suit, then we got the scene there, and they say it's time to roll. And now he does really great at it, he's smashing things around really good, but some of the debris hits one of the lights. The light comes crashing down into heads up, it's falling in a puddle of spilled chemicals from the previous scene, because that wouldn't be something you would want to clean up or anything like that. So then Joe, unfortunately, is the unfortunate recipient of a electrical shock, being electrocuted by chemical fluid. Sorry, I should compose myself a little bit. At anyway, at first he's like, oh, my head, I feel very, very, very strange. And so here we switch over to Peter Parker, who's at the Daily Bugle, and he's walking in to seeing the third receptionist of the week quitting, and it's only Tuesday. And his original intention was to go in there to ask for back payment that he is owed, but J. Jonah Jameson is yelling at him, and he's saying it's this problem with the receptionists is the it's Peter Parker's fault, because it hasn't been since Betty Brant quit that nobody can do the job, and Betty Brant quit because of a an argument that she had with Pete. So, Pete, this is where it gets a little kind of weird and confusing, but okay. So he walks out of Jameson's office and he runs into this reporter guy. And the reporter, he says, he's asking him about Betty. And, he thinks that this guy ran off to California with Betty to marry her, but that didn't happen. And he wants to know where she is. And he responds to Peter as, I want to know where she is too. And Peter says you should ask her. Now, he's not pleased with Peter there. And so Peter is kind of standoffish with him. And then they eventually sort of, part ways from each other. And now Peter is definitely, not... he's not, Peter wants Betty Brant. Basically, he wants her back at this point in time, and he's worried about her that he's not there. But in an interesting little bit of dialogue here, Peter's thinking to himself. He says, "Perhaps I should have told Betty the truth about myself from the beginning. Everything might have been different if she knew that Peter Parker is Spider-Man. But I can't be sure. No one can predict a female's reactions." That one didn't age well. Okay, so, back to the movie set. You see the stars indicating Joe Smith is still not doing right. They send him out there for the next scene where he's supposed to fake beat up these blue guys, but he beats the crap out of them pretty well. And then breaks out of the set and decides that he's going to take his anger to the street, that everybody that pissed him off, he's going to strike back at them, and that's not going to be good for them. And Peter's walking thinking to himself, he's so self-absorbed that he doesn't see everybody running in the other direction and warning him that there's a problem. His Spidey sense doesn't even really go off. He's so preoccupied until some debris almost hits him in the face, at which time, obviously, it's time for Spidey to jump into action. He shoots some webs on him, but Joe in the green and yellow suit is able to tear the webs apart very easily, and then, for the next couple of pages here, Spider-Man and Joe have a Donnybrook, as Stan Lee would like to say for sure. And, Spider-Man is definitely not getting the best of this situation. At this point in time, Joe's manager shows up and his head starts to clear a little bit. And he explains, you screwed up big, kid. I'll stand by you, but we gotta take care of this problem. And Spider-Man just goes back, after taking a good shot to go return to the fight, but Joe's gone. And the scene switches to the university, where here you can see we got Flash and Harry Osborn giving Norman Osborne and dropping him off, and then you see this. I love this here. Norman says after the kids drop him off, he says, "I thought they'd never drive away. Now's my chance. Make a quick change. No one is apt to notice in this gloomy, darkened corner." That he puts on a pair of sunglasses, and now, the richest man in New York is now incognito. But okay. So basically, Norman Osborn is going in, he's meeting with these mob bosses, and he wants Spider-Man dead. And he's willing to pay a whopping $20,000 for it. Now, I'm just being, facetious. Of course, I understand this was in the 60s and there was that meant a lot more money. But, so, he wants them to put the word out on the street. He wants everybody to know about this reward for Spider-Man, so Spidey's in trouble. And so then after, I guess, Flash and Harry drop off their dad, or Harry's dad, they go to the university, and then he's calling out here to Gwen Stacy. And so they're, hey gals, wait up for us. And then the girl says, look Gwen, it's Flash Thompson and Harry Osborne. And she says, I know, the two charter members of the Let's Hate Peter Parker Club. She's got the right idea there, that's for sure. Now, Peter is just trying to get to class, and he gets accosted by some protesters who want him to protest with him, or with them. And he just wants to, get out of there. And, the Flash and Harry are like, look, he's with those protesters. And then Gwen, of course, he's not with them. Look, he's leaving. And so, Pete does get out of there, does see them. And of course, nothing nice is ever said between those two, but Peter, of course, doesn't want to hurt Flash because Flash is Spider-Man's biggest fan. And, Flash asks him if he ever loses his temper, and he says, sure, but not when a big 0 IQ tries to goad me. And so then, he has class and the others leave, and we see here Gwen Stacy with the thought bubbles, and she's saying to herself, no matter what the others say, there's something so strong, so proud about Peter Parker. You're walking away with the person whose father is gonna kill you. Get out of there, Gwen. And so Joe does finally get back to his apartment. His manager got him there. He tells him to lie down, have a rest, all that sort of good stuff. So then here we see, basically the word going out about the 20 grand for Spidey. So back to class, and, Peter Parker is there, and Harry's antagonizing him as usual. And, then Spidey's just decides to go for a swing to clear the cobwebs, and all of a sudden he's being attacked out of nowhere, doesn't understand why. After waking up from his rest, Joe Smith says that he is, he doesn't say anything. He wakes up and he's got those sparkles again, and is not even hearing his manager. He's got a crazy look in his eye, throws his manager out of the way, and then he's gonna go on another rampage. So, Spidey's still fighting in the streets because everybody's attacking him. Where does Joe go? He goes back to the boxing gym where he was initially, given some not so nice treatment by these fellas. And he proceeds to start to beat the hell out of them. Spidey swings by, hears the ruckus, and decides he's gonna check it out, and lo and behold, it's exactly who he's looking for. So, you get this interesting mix here in the next couple pages, because the boxers also know about the price on Spidey's head, so it's a combination of Joe Smith trying to beat the hell out of Spider-Man, while the other guys are trying to beat the hell out of Spider-Man, while Joe is throwing them out of the way so he can beat the hell out of Spider-Man. It's real good. And I also like here, and now with one final Aikau, we end our scintillating sound effects section as Smiling Stan thanks you, one and all, for the brief breather you've allowed him. Yeah, I liked some of the little cute stuff that Stan Lee would put into these things, and that's one of them. And so, you know, they're fighting here, but oh, all of a sudden he doesn't see the spots anymore. Now this is where it gets downright hilarious. The cops walk in, and of course they want to arrest Joe, and he knows that he's in trouble, and he even though he didn't mean to cause any trouble. But then the manager walks in and hold it right there. And he tells them how the studio was so happy with Joe's work that they're not going to press any charges, and they're very happy to sign Joe up to this new deal where he's going to be a movie star. And the cops are just, well, sure, okay. It's not like he endangered the public or, you know, did anything like that. We'll just let him go. And so Spidey leaves the scene, and you know, he says he hopes one day he'll get some free movie tickets out of this. So back out onto the street where there's more people who are looking to beat him up, and of course now Spider-Man he's very aggressive here. This is not your average sort of Peter Parker. And he's very aggressive. He's really beating the crap out of these guys. He sees that it's, you know, and he thinks that this mannequin looks like the reporter that wants to marry Betty Brant. And so he says, because he punches the reporter, because you have the right to propose to Betty. The shadow of Spider-Man isn't standing between you. So, you know, he's lamenting his life, that whole great power, great responsibility thing. And then, so we see here's Aunt May, and we don't see her face yet, because that hasn't happened yet in the Spider-Man world. Mary Jane is talking to Aunt May. Now, Aunt May wants Mary Jane to meet Peter because he thinks that they would make quite the couple. And, you know, I don't know if she's right. We'll have to wait and see and find out, I suppose. So, she's waiting. I guess it takes too long, so she goes home. So Peter walks in the door, and May's like, oh no, there's this girl that I want you to meet. And she grabs him by the arm, runs outside, and she's already gone. And, you know, she says, oh, that was Mary Jane Watson. That's the girl I've been wanting you to meet. And then Peter is thinking to himself, for a second, I thought it might have been Betty. And so, like I said at the beginning of the review here, that's why I find this very interesting, because we all know, everybody knows Mary Jane, everybody knows Gwen Stacy. Here, he is not even interested in meeting Mary Jane, and didn't even really look twice at Gwen Stacy during the university or college scenes, whatever you want to call them. And so he just decides, you know, I'm just going to watch the news. But on the news, he sees once again Joe Smith, where they're announcing his huge new contract. And Pete decides he's just going to go upstairs. And May makes the comment, sleep well. I'm glad you turned off the TV. Those news items can give you nightmares. And Pete ends this issue by saying, not much of a chance in that in my case. I only have them when I'm awake. And then here, in the next ish, the biggest surprise of the season awaits you. Nuff said. Spoiler alert, you learn that the Green Goblin's Norman Osborne. Anyway, so that is that. We got through that one. It was, like I said, we put this guy here so you can see that as we finish up here. Really like this issue. It's a good issue. Hard to go wrong with any of the Ditko Spider-Man issues or even the Romita Spider-Man issues that followed. Thank you for joining me here on this first Spidey Sunday. Hopefully we don't have to do this for too long, but I'll have fun while we're doing it. If you liked this video, hit the like button, subscribe to the channel, hit the notification bell, leave some comments down below if you'd like. You can check me out over at sonofthemorning7 on Twitter. So once again, I would just like to thank everybody for joining me here on the Son of the Morning Comics channel, and have yourself a wonderful night.